So, the RMT Union, once again, are calling strikes against South Western Railway. But I think they're going to have real problems, although they already are, to be honest, trying to get public support on this one. Yeah, here in the UK, the right to strike is kind of important. The problem often can be, though, is that when it's public services that get affected, it can be really difficult, I think, to get public support because basically it involves services not happening that people kind of need. I previously mentioned this when junior doctors were going on strike, and luckily, as far as I'm aware, nothing went wrong at all, which is good. Because I think, as I said in that one, what they were striking for was good. It's the striking itself that was the problem, and if anything had gone wrong, it would have backfired on them quite catastrophically. That didn't happen, and that's good. In this case, there's currently a move with UK train operators, slowly moving towards using driver-only operated trains. So at the moment, we have the driver and the guard. So, every train will have two members of staff on it. And, the guard does various roles, but the main one that we see is opening and closing the doors, making announcements when you're trying to chat with your mates, and getting you to take your headphones off so they can ask you to check your ticket. They do far more than that. The problem is, we don't actually see much of what they do. And I think this is going to cause problems. Like I said, it already is. I've seen it, that they're just not getting an awful lot of support from the general public. Because, it's not that, the general public is actually in support of the train operating companies either. In the UK, we actually think that most of them suck. And that's the problem. At the best of times, we're not getting a good train service. So all we want is a train service that's better than what we usually get. So when you're already used to delays and cancellations and overcrowding and all that kind of rubbish, the idea of then having to deal with train strikes, either on your commute to and from work or during your weekend or whenever it is, it's not exactly appealing. Because it's like, come on, it's not like when the strike stops will come, everything will return to a decent level of service. The problem is that the strike will stop and things will return to a still inferior level of service. We don't want any worsening of the service. The other thing is, it's the nature of this particular one, in that, especially my local train operating company, South Western Railways, is one of the ones that is still sort of holding out against. They really don't seem to want to keep the guards on the train, and the problem is, for an awful lot of us, this doesn't seem like a problem. For me, the guards are annoying because I don't need what they provide, and the rest of what they do is annoying. But I'm not the reason that there are guards on the train. because, again, most of the time, I'm on relatively successful train journeys. Apart from when they've been, I've had a couple of absolutely disastrous ones, but no, very genuinely, I was actually trying to travel from Leeds to London years ago on the day of the July 7th London bombings. I've got to admit, through no fault of their own, onboard staff did not gain any kind of favour from me, because they weren't being told what was going on. You know, they were getting information that was, well, it wasn't matching what I was hearing from people via text message and phone call. And, you know, this was back in 2005 when, you know, kind of, there weren't kind of always on really, really powerful, smartphones and the ability to browse the internet from wherever and whenever you are. So the problem is, again, the one time in my life when I really, really, really needed to have the guard on the ball, they were not being furnished the information that those was on the train needed to be told. I've never really trusted train staff since, because I can get better information by browsing from my phone or from calling a mate. Again, maybe that's just me. But if there are problems physically on the train, you know, if it breaks down somewhere and it has to be evacuated, it is the guard who will know how to lead the passengers off the train whilst avoiding, you know, things like other trains and the electric supply for the trains. You know, trying to evacuate a train without someone who knows what's going on, that's not going to work out. But again, if you've never been on a train that's broken down, you've never really had that. Similarly, they are absolutely essential for people with disabilities, especially physical disabilities, you know, being able to get, you know, assisted on and off the train and that kind of thing. And again, if you don't have any of those type of disabilities, you've never needed the guard. But that means that, you know, given that chances are, hopefully, the majority of people's train journeys have been without disaster, and the majority of people travelling probably don't have disabilities, going by those two assumptions, the majority of people who take the train will never have benefited from a guard. So when the guards go on strike, most of us are just thinking, what do we even do anyway? Because we've not seen it, we've not benefited from it. You know, all we've ever really interacted is, you know, when we're trying to do something else and we're asked to show that we've got a ticket. Or we're trying to do something, you know, like read a book or have a chat with someone and the guard's making an announcement on the tannoy. You know, essential things, but things that get in the way. All the benefits are for when things go wrong or for when you need help that a lot of people don't. But for those who do, it's a difference between being able to use a train at all and not get anywhere. But that's the problem that they've got here, is that an awful lot of the benefits that the guard brings is invisible. The chaos that strikes bring, is all too visible. And the other thing is that with a substandard, train service at the best of times, I don't think people have got the patience for anything to make it worse.
One quick addendum on this, which might really, really impact the RMT's ability to get the public on side, is part of their argument at the moment, and I'm checking it on their Twitter feed, is that they are taking issue with the fact that South Western Railway wants to be able to guarantee that trains will run in some circumstances where a guard is not available. Now, regardless of whether or not you agree with if that should be the case, what you absolutely cannot dispute at the moment is that every time South Western Railway have a delay or a cancellation or something like that, they get raked over the coals by their passengers. Not the RMT union, South Western Railway. They are getting an awful lot of flack at the moment of not being able to run a reliable service, and the ability to guarantee that is probably, hopefully, something that they are really focusing on at the moment. But the problem is that however justified the RMT union may be with wanting reasons why a train can't run, trying to get the public on side for that against a train company who that very same public are saying gets the damn trains running on time every time and with no cancellations. Not going to happen, mate. Really not going to happen. Unfortunately, in this case, for the RMT, a lot of the public just basically want the damn trains to run. Seems that is kind of what they're paying for, or what they're being paid for, you know, being at work on time, no excuses. Yeah. If South Western Railway were to accept that there are reasons why a train should be cancelled, and that got out at the moment, the public would bloody crucify them.
Especially because, you know, if it happens during stuff like half-term holidays or weekends, then that's screwing over people's personal time. And if it happens during the working week, that makes people late for work. And the problem with that is it'd be all well and good if the majority of jobs would kind of understand that sometimes being late for work is, you know, is not going to be a one-off, it's going to be a constant thing and there's nothing that can be done about it. The problem is, unless it's a one-off or very sporadic thing, if you are constantly having problems getting into work on time, it reflects badly upon you as an employee. Doesn't matter that your train company is unreliable, or doesn't matter that the train schedules have been sent chaotic by a load of strikes. If you're consistently late, you're in trouble. Getting in on time regularly trumps everything. And again, that is something that I think the RMT union hasn't yet figured out how to deal with, because yes, they're talking about stuff like passenger safety, yes, they're talking about stuff like the long-term viability of the trains, and a lot of people are just kind of going, yeah, if you decide to go on strike three weekdays in a row, if I'm late 3 days in a row, then I get in trouble. And if I get up stupidly early 3 days in a row, I'm going to be absolutely knackered. It's like, yeah, that's not useful. It's one of those things where I really think that the union has to think of how to kind of try to put a better positive slant on it, because at the moment they're failing. Because I mean, heck, the reason I was, when I'd picked up the phone to show the phone anyway, and it just happened to flash up, and I looked, and it's, there's a bit of a Twitter thread on this whole situation going on at the moment, and again, it's someone trying to say that, if you've got a disability, physical disability, then, the trains are really, really, that guard position is really, really important. Still doesn't persuade me that strikes are ever justified, because it's screwing over people, everybody else's ability to get from A to B. Everybody's. I mean, okay, yes, strike action doesn't discriminate. Doesn't matter whether you're disabled or able-bodied. Doesn't matter your gender, your sexuality, your religious preference, what bloody football team you support. If the trains are running chaotic, everyone's screwed over. That isn't good. That isn't good. And that's the problem. Kind of trying to say, for us as a minority, we need that, so the disruption for everybody is a good thing. It's not that you're wrong at all, it's just that people are going to find it difficult to buy that as an argument, especially if, as previously mentioned, you're getting in trouble for being late for work or things like that, and it just doesn't work. And I don't know. And again, it's as I said on the thing about the junior doctor strikes, the other thing for what I don't like is when the public is effectively being used as a bargaining chip. I can't support that for any reason. And it's like kind of, people complain, and I've been having a look at the things that people have been tweeting to the RMT union's official Twitter feed, and a lot of it is kind of the union then turning back and saying, yes, but the problem here is because the rail companies are in the wrong. And it's like, you're right. You are right that technically the rail companies are the ones who should probably be backing down. But the problem is, they're not going to. Not without a fight. And I, as an occasional commuter, do not particularly like being used, as a pawn in that fight. Keep the fighting between yourselves and leave the public out of it. Because if it's a public service, pissing off the public, bad move. Very bad move, because there are going to be times when you are really, really going to need public goodwill, and you don't want to have squandered it. And yes, I know that there are a lot of people who will probably think, but this is really important and it's not squandering it. It's like, fine, but the majority of people still have a limited amount of patience. Doesn't matter why the patience has run out. When it's run out, it's gone. It can be because all of the guards are basically off having a chat instead of being bothered to do their job, or it can be they are fighting for a genuinely safer passenger experience. But if the end result is trains aren't running to time because of stuff that the guards are doing, at some point someone's going to not have the patience with a guard that they really need to have. And it doesn't matter that the reason that the guards had was fully justified. That doesn't make people's patience magically improve. Especially not if it impacts things like getting to work, getting home at the end of a day, being able to see your friends and family, being able to make a connection if you've got a long journey to do, being able to make a connection if you're trying to go on holiday, being able to get on time to something that you paid lots of money for a ticket for entry for. Yeah. All that does is get people annoyed, and that doesn't help. Because if you're a public facing service, you really need to keep the public on side as much as you can. And too much strike action, however well intentioned and however justified, just pisses people off. And like a lot of the things I bring up on here, unfortunately, there isn't necessarily an easy answer to it. Because for some things there are no easy answers. There isn't always a quick fix. But in this case, with the union really kind of digging their heels in, the more they say it's in the interests of the passenger, the harder it is for the passengers to buy when it's making the service piss poor. Oh well. Until next time, see ya.